13-year-old African girl was thrown out on her birthday, until an Arab executive stopped and said. She stood barefoot in the rain, clutching a torn piece of her birthday dress, her eyes scanning the road for someone, anyone, who would notice. 13 today, and already discarded by the only family she had. But just as the sun began to set behind the crumbling buildings, a sleek black car slowed beside her. The window rolled down, and from the driver's seat, a man in an expensive suit and a quiet, commanding voice asked her a question that would change both of their lives forever. What followed was a story no one could have predicted. A billionaire Arab executive with a haunted past, and a girl with nothing left to lose. Together, they would rewrite the meaning of family, sacrifice, and redemption in a way that will stay with you forever. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story that touches the heart and opens the soul. Let's begin. The air in the slum was heavy with smoke and heat, even as the gray clouds promised rain. Little girls in the alley whispered and played with cracked plastic dolls. But Amina wasn't playing. She stood outside the rusted metal door of her house, barefoot, bruised, and trembling, with a plastic bag in one hand and a fading paper crown in the other. She had turned 13 that morning. But instead of cake, instead of love, instead of hearing happy birthday, she heard a door slam shut behind her. Her mother's voice rang out with rage. "Go! You're not my child anymore. You've brought shame on this house." No one had cared to listen to her cries. No one had asked what happened or why she was late the night before. Her stepfather's twisted version of the truth was enough. Amina was just a burden, one they could toss away like garbage. She wandered through the dirt roads of her village, her tiny feet blistered from the hot ground. Every glance she received was a mix of pity and judgment. She didn't even know where she was going. All she knew was she had to keep walking. Her mother had meant it. This time, she really wasn't welcome back. By the time she reached the main road, the sky cracked open with rain. Heavy, cold, merciless. She found shelter under a broken billboard, hugging her knees to her chest. Hunger clawed at her stomach. Her dress, once pink and bright, was soaked through and sticking to her thin body. She didn't cry. Not anymore. There were no tears left to give. That's when she saw the car. It didn't belong here. Sleek, black, clean. The kind of car you only saw on TV or when the governor visited. It slowed, its headlights piercing through the rain and mud, before stopping right in front of her. She froze. Her heart thumped wildly. Run? Hide? But her legs wouldn't move. The tinted window slid down with a quiet hum. A man sat in the back seat, wearing a crisp gray suit with a look of deep intensity in his eyes. His skin was olive, his jaw tight, and his gaze didn't flinch when it met hers. "Are you alone?" he asked, In calm, perfect English, she didn't speak. "Where is your family?" She opened her mouth to lie, but no words came. The driver turned and whispered something in Arabic. The man raised a hand to silence him and leaned closer. "My name is Karim," he said gently. "I am not here to hurt you." Still, Amina didn't speak, but her eyes, wide and filled with something between fear and hope, told him everything. Karim opened the door. It was such a small gesture, but to Amina, it felt like a mountain moving. She didn't know who he was. She didn't know why he had stopped, or why someone dressed like a prince would care about a girl like her. But her body moved before her mind did, legs trembling as she stepped forward and into the car. Warmth, leather seats, the smell of mint and something expensive. Her world shifted instantly from muddy streets to smooth silence. Karim didn't ask more questions. He simply handed her a towel from the seat and told the driver to keep going. As they drove off, Amina stared out the window, watching the broken neighborhood disappear behind her. She didn't realize it then, but nothing about her life would ever be the same again. And Karim? He had no idea that the girl he'd just let into his car would soon uncover the truth he'd buried for decades. The car hummed softly as it moved through the wet roads, distant from the chaos Amina had known her whole life. She sat still, wrapped in the large towel Karim had given her, unsure if she was safe or just caught in a dream that would soon turn into a nightmare. She barely dared to breathe. Karim didn't speak for a while. He simply looked out the opposite window, his fingers tapping gently against his leg, his thoughts clearly somewhere else. The silence between them wasn't heavy, just unfamiliar. Finally, he turned to her. "What's your name?" Her voice was small. "Amina." He nodded, thoughtful. "How old are you, Amina?" 13, she said, barely above a whisper. There was a pause. "I stopped," he said slowly, "because I saw you sitting there, and something about your eyes reminded me of someone I once knew." She didn't respond. She wasn't sure what that meant, or if it was even real. Rich men didn't just pick up girls from the streets. The car soon pulled into a long private driveway. Iron gates opened like jaws, and ahead stood a villa unlike anything Amina had ever seen. The walls were white, glowing even in the gray rain, and palm trees lined the walkway like soldiers guarding treasure. Amina clutched her bag tighter. "I can't stay," she said suddenly, panic rising. "Please, sir, don't hurt me. I'll go. I'm sorry." "No one's going to hurt you," Karim interrupted, his tone firm but gentle. "You're safe here. You'll sleep, eat, and rest. Tomorrow we talk. That's all." She stared at him. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do this?" Karim didn't answer right away. His eyes darkened for a second, as if haunted by a memory. Because once, he said, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. That night, Karim placed Amina in a guest room bigger than any house she had ever lived in. The bed was soft, the sheets clean, and the silence strange. A woman in a white hijab came in with food, warm soup, rice, lamb. Amina wanted to cry, but she ate instead. Her hands shook as she brought the spoon to her lips, as if afraid someone would take it away. Outside the room, Karim stood with his assistant, Jamal. "You know what they'll say," Jamal warned. "A man like you bringing in a street girl? People talk." "Let them," Karim replied coldly. "They always talk." "What are you planning?" "I'm not sure yet, but that girl, something about her, there's more to this." Jamal gave him a long look. "You don't even know her story." Karim sighed. "Exactly, and that bothers me more than it should." Meanwhile, Amina lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. The softness of the bed felt foreign. She wasn't used to comfort. She wasn't used to being seen. She thought about her mother, about the way she looked at her before slamming the door, about her stepfather's lies. She clenched her fists, the memory burning in her chest. She wouldn't go back. She couldn't. But what did this new world mean? The next morning, sunlight spilled through the tall windows. Amina sat on the edge of the bed, unsure if she was allowed to move. She didn't know the rules here. Karim entered without knocking. "Breakfast is ready," he said. "After that, I want to hear your story." She looked down. "I don't have one." "Everyone has a story," he replied, "even when they try to bury it." That was the first time Amina saw him smile. It was small, guarded, but real. She followed him into the sunlit dining room. Plates of food covered the table, untouched. Amina stared. "Is this for me?" Karim gestured for her to sit. "Eat, and then we talk." But before she could lift her fork, his phone buzzed. He picked it up, listened for a moment, and his face hardened. "What's wrong?" Amina asked, noticing the shift. Karim didn't answer. But what he'd just heard on the phone would set in motion a chain of events that neither of them was ready for. One that would link their lives in a way far deeper than either could imagine. Karim ended the call and placed the phone down slowly. His fingers pressed firmly against the polished wood of the dining table. His jaw was tight, his chest barely rising with breath. Whatever he had just heard, it wasn't good. Amina had barely touched her food, but now she stopped completely. "Was it about me?" she asked, her voice low. Karim looked up, startled that she'd sensed it. He shook his head, then offered a reassuring smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "No, not about you, but it might affect us both." Amina lowered her gaze. She didn't understand this man. His home was massive, his clothes spotless, and yet There was something broken in his voice. A crack, just like her. Karim took a slow sip of his tea, then motioned toward her plate. Eat. You'll need your strength. After this, I want to walk with you. There's something I'd like to show you. Outside, the morning was soft and golden. The rain from the day before had left behind dew on the flowers, and the garden behind Karim's estate looked like something out of a painting. Rose bushes, stone paths, fountains with marble lions. Amina walked beside him, unsure of where to look, what to say. She stole glances at him. Karim was a mystery. He had the posture of power, but the eyes of someone who had lost something he never spoke of. Finally, they stopped at a small stone bench. Karim sat down and gestured for her to do the same. I came from nothing, he said, without preamble. Not far from where I found you. My mother cleaned houses. My father died when I was 4. I worked every hour to build what I have now. But the cost wasn't small. Amina looked at him, trying to imagine it. He continued. My younger sister, Layla, she was 13 when she disappeared. We never found out what happened. The police didn't care. People said she ran away. But I never believed that. There was silence. A sparrow chirped in the distance. You reminded me of her, he said softly. Not in the face, but in the eyes. That look like the world has taken too much too soon. Amina swallowed the lump in her throat. She wanted to speak, but the words were stuck. I don't know what your story is, Amina, he said, turning to her. But if you trust me, I'll help you find a new one. She nodded slowly, and for the first time in days, she believed someone. But just as they sat in that peaceful moment, Jamal appeared, urgency in his step. Karim, he said, we have a problem. Karim stood, instantly alert. What is it? The media. Someone saw the girl getting into your car yesterday. Photos are circulating. Headlines are already spinning. Amina's body tensed. Karim's voice was calm but steel-edged. What kind of headlines? Jamal hesitated. That you picked up a minor off the street. That it's suspicious. They're questioning your intentions. Amina's face went pale. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Please. Karim raised his hand gently. This is not your fault. But if they think I'm... She paused, unable to say it. You're a child who needed help, he said. Let them say what they want. I won't send you away. Jamal stepped closer. Karim, you're a public figure. Investors, partnerships. Let them walk, Karim interrupted sharply. I'm not abandoning her. But even as he said it, Amina could feel the pressure closing in. The peaceful bubble they'd stepped into was cracking. That evening, she wandered into the library of the house. Floor-to-ceiling books, golden lighting, and a silence that calmed her. She found a book on poetry and sat by the window, tracing the letters with her finger. Karim entered quietly. "You like books?" She nodded. "I used to read at school, but then I stopped going." "Why?" She hesitated. "My stepfather didn't think girls needed school. He said I was better off helping my mother at home." Karim sat beside her, hands clasped. "Education is the reason I escaped. No one gave it to me. I fought for it." She looked at him with wide, admiring eyes. "I can help you go back," he said, "if you want." And just like that, a seed of hope planted itself in Amina's chest. But neither of them knew that someone from her past was already looking for her, and not for the reason she hoped. The days that followed passed like slow whispers in a strange new world. Amina adjusted to routines she'd never known. Breakfasts with fresh fruit, long walks through gardens, and nights spent under blankets so soft they felt like clouds. But even surrounded by comfort, she could feel it. A storm was building. Karim was quieter now. Ever since the media started spinning stories, his phone had rung non-stop. Business partners wanted answers. Tabloids posted blurred photos of her face alongside cruel headlines. Every time Amina caught a glimpse of a screen, she saw words like runaway, scandal, and child kept in mansion, each cut like a knife. One morning, as she sat curled up in the library, Karim entered with a folded newspaper in his hand. His eyes were tired. "They're saying you're my secret," he said, sitting across from her. Amina stiffened. "Do they think I'm—" "Yes," he said before she finished. "And it will only get worse." She looked away. "You should send me away." "I won't. But I'm ruining your name." Karim leaned forward, his voice low. "You're not ruining anything. What they say doesn't matter." She looked at him. "But it matters to them, to your world, your company." Karim paused. "It's not the first time I've had to choose between my business and what I believe in. But it could cost you everything." He looked at her, long and deep. "Some things are worth it." Later that day, Karim received a message from a private number. A short sentence that made his chest tighten. "You have something that belongs to me." He stared at it for a long time before deleting it without a word. But Amina noticed the shift in his mood. That night, he was distant, pacing outside under the moonlight. She watched him from the window, wondering what had changed. The next morning, a surprise visitor arrived. A tall man stood at the gate in a worn leather jacket, sunglasses covering his eyes despite the shade. He introduced himself as Imran, claiming to be Amina's uncle. "She belongs with family," he told the guards. "That man has no right to keep her." Karim refused to see him, but Imran didn't leave. He waited outside the gate for hours, then returned the next day and the next. Amina overheard it from the staff. "I don't have an uncle," she told Karim that evening. He nodded. "I know. I did some checking." "Then who is he?" "Someone who knows your stepfather. Someone who wants to drag you back." Amina's voice shook. "Why?" Karim looked away. "Maybe to silence you. Or maybe just to sell you." She gasped. Her heart pounded in her ears. "I won't let that happen," Karim said, his tone turning colder than she'd ever heard. "I've dealt with men like him before. But if the media finds out, I don't care." But deep inside, Amina could see it. He did care. Not because of pride, because he had something to lose now, someone to protect. That night, as the wind rattled the glass, Karim opened a safe in his study and pulled out a file. It was old, yellowed at the edges, with Layla's name on the front. A missing girl, 13 years old, vanished without a trace. He stared at the photo. A girl with soft curls and eyes too serious for her age. Then he looked at Amina's photo on his phone, the one taken by the tabloid. The resemblance wasn't physical. It was in the pain behind the eyes. And for the first time in years, Karim felt like he had a second chance. But outside his gates, Imran wasn't giving up. He had made a deal. A sum had already been promised, and if Karim didn't hand her over, something terrible was going to happen. The night was unusually still. Amina stood by her window, clutching the book of poetry she had fallen in love with. But her eyes weren't on the words. They were on the shadows just beyond the garden. She didn't know what she was looking for. Maybe the man who had been lurking outside for days. Maybe the past trying to find its way back in. Downstairs, Karim was on the phone. His voice, though calm, had a sharpness she hadn't heard before. "No, I don't want silence. I want names. Whoever paid that man to show up at my gate, I want them found. Now." He ended the call and stared into the darkness of the room. Amina was in danger, and he knew it. It wasn't just about gossip anymore. Someone wanted her. And Karim, despite everything he had built, had no intention of letting her slip through his fingers, not like Layla. That name haunted him now. Layla, his sister, whose memory was buried deeper than any grave. The one person he'd promised to protect and failed. Amina's presence had reopened wounds he thought time had healed. But they hadn't. They had only waited, like sleeping fires beneath cold ash. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed outside. Karim rushed to the window. His heart dropped. The gates had been forced open. "Get Amina!" he shouted to the security team. "Now!" Upstairs, Amina was frozen. She heard the shout, the panic in the halls, the rapid footsteps. A guard appeared at her door. "Come with me." She hesitated. "Is it him?" "We don't know, but we're not taking chances." She ran, her bare feet hitting the cold marble as she followed the guard down a narrow staircase that led to a reinforced safe room below the kitchen. Karim met them there. He knelt in front of her, holding her shoulders. "Do not open this door, no matter what you hear." Amina's voice was barely a whisper. "What if they take you?" He smiled gently. "They won't." And then he was gone. Upstairs, chaos unfolded. Imran had returned, but this time he wasn't alone. 3 men stood behind him, faces covered, flashlights in hand, shouting demands. "You took something that's not yours," one of them yelled. "You don't get to keep her." Karim stood firm in the hallway, surrounded by his staff and security. "She's not a possession," he replied. "She's a child, and she's not going anywhere." "You don't understand," Imran growled. "You're interfering with something bigger than you know. I don't care who sent you. You're not leaving with her." The standoff escalated. One of the masked men lunged forward, but was quickly tackled by security. Screams erupted. A fight broke out. Furniture shattered. Alarms blared. But Karim didn't flinch. Outside, police sirens began to wail. Karim had called them hours ago. He had sensed this would happen. The men tried to flee, but they were caught before they could reach the street. Downstairs, the guard whispered, "It's over." Amina was shaking. Karim returned minutes later, his shirt torn, blood on his lip, but his eyes calm. "You're safe now," he said. Amina didn't ask what happened. She just ran into his arms. He held her tightly. That night, as the police took statements and reporters swarmed the front gate, Karim did something no one expected. He stood on his doorstep, cameras flashing, and spoke clearly into the microphones. "The girl you've seen with me is named Amina. She was thrown out of her home. She was left in the street. I took her in because no one else would. She is not my secret. She is not my shame. She is my responsibility." The footage went viral overnight. Some praised him, others criticized. But Amina saw something else in his words. Truth. That night, for the first time, she slept without fear. But far away, in a dark room lit by a single desk lamp, a woman watched the broadcast. She zoomed in on Amina's face and whispered, "It can't be." Because buried in Amina's past was a secret even Karim couldn't imagine. The next morning, Amina awoke to a silence unlike any she had known. Not the silence of fear, but of calm. The type that follows a storm. She rolled over and saw the soft light of dawn stretch across the ceiling. For a moment, she believed it was all over, that she was safe. Downstairs, Karim was already pacing. His security team had doubled overnight. Lawyers had called non-stop. But what kept him awake wasn't the threat. It was the question Jamal had asked just after the attack. "Karim, are you sure you know who she is?" Karim had waved it off at the time, but now it echoed. He sat at his desk, pulling out old files again, searching for answers he didn't know he needed. Layla's disappearance, the silence from the police, a dozen loose threads that had never made sense. He opened his laptop and began digging into public records, just to rule out the impossible. Meanwhile, across the city, the woman from the night before, Mira Al-Fulan, was dialing a number with trembling fingers. Her voice shook as she spoke. "I need a DNA test," she said. "There's a girl. She was on the news. I think she might be my sister's child." The voice on the other end was confused. "Your sister?" Her name was Layla. The words made her chest burn. She disappeared 13 years ago. No one ever found her. But she was pregnant when she vanished. Back at the villa, Karim finally took Amina aside after breakfast. "There's something I need to ask you," he said, sitting across from her on the patio. The morning air was crisp, and a breeze lifted the edge of the tablecloth. She looked nervous. "Am I in trouble?" "No," he said quickly. "But I need to know more about where you came from. Your mother, your stepfather. Do you know who your real father was?" Amina shook her head. "She never talked about him. Just said he left before I was born, that he was nobody." Karim felt something shift in his gut. He stood and motioned for her to follow. They entered his office. On the wall behind his desk hung a single photo, faded but cherished. A girl in her teens, wearing a blue scarf and laughing at something off camera. "That's my sister," he said. "Layla." Amina stepped closer. "She looks happy." She was. But she was also hiding something. And one day, she disappeared. Amina frowned. "Why are you showing me this?" Karim hesitated, then said softly, "Because she was pregnant when she vanished." Amina's eyes widened. Her knees felt weak. "That can't be." "Maybe it's nothing," he added quickly. "But I've asked for a DNA test. You don't have to agree. But if you're willing, I need to know." Amina stared at the photo again. The girl's eyes. There was something familiar about them. Something she'd seen in her own reflection 1,000 times. "I'll do it," she said. The test was simple. A swab, a signature, and a few days of waiting. But those days felt like years. In the meantime, Mira arrived at the villa. She and Karim spoke privately for hours. Mira explained that she had been searching for Layla for over a decade. She had gone through foster systems, hospitals, even morgues. But no trace. She had finally given up, until she saw Amina's face on the news. Karim was cautious. Hope had failed him before. But something in Mira's story aligned too perfectly with the timeline. On the third day, the results arrived. Karim opened the envelope in silence. Mira sat across from him, her fingers digging into the armrest of the chair. He scanned the paper once, then again. His lips parted. "She's Layla's daughter," he said, voice hoarse. The room fell silent. Mira covered her mouth, tears flooding her eyes. Amina entered just then, having been called by a guard. Karim stood slowly. "You're not just a girl I helped," he said, his voice trembling. "You're my niece." Amina's world tilted. She shook her head. "That's not possible." But Mira stepped forward, her voice shaking. "Your mother's name was Layla, wasn't it?" Amina nodded slowly. "She only told me once, right before she died." Karim reached out and took her hand. "Your family." Amina didn't know how to feel. Relief, grief, joy, confusion. But what she did know, what she felt deep in her bones, was that this man had saved her long before he ever knew who she truly was. And maybe, just maybe, she had saved him too. 2 weeks had passed. The house felt different now, less like a stranger's mansion and more like a home. Amina walked freely through the halls, no longer a guest, no longer a girl with no past. She was Amina al-Fulan now, a niece, a name, a story. Karim watched her with quiet pride. For the first time in years, he no longer felt alone. His sister hadn't vanished completely. She had left behind a living piece of herself. They held a small ceremony in the garden. No media, no press. Just Mira, Karim, and Amina. They planted a tree in Layla's honor. Amina knelt to press her hand in the soil, tears falling freely, not of sorrow, but of release. "I never knew her," she said, "but I think she tried to protect me, even in the way she disappeared." Karim placed a hand on her shoulder. "And now we protect each other." He had made the decision. Amina would stay. Not as a burden, not as a mystery, but as family. He enrolled her in a private school, set up a trust in her name, and for the first time, Amina began to imagine a future, one with books, with choices, with peace. As they stood together under the tree, Mira whispered, "Layla would be proud of you both." Karim didn't reply. He simply looked at Amina and smiled, because deep down he knew. Saving her had saved him too.